Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Talking to the Dog Benfica podcast, episode number 284, the last episode of the 2017-2018 season. Here we are for the season wrap-up. With me tonight, Cristiano Oliveira. Então,
Hey. Beleza?
it works
Tudo
better when
jóia,
you turn
cara?
on your mics. Steve Santos and Dave de Oliveira up in the Great White North. Steve Santos in Toronto. What's happening, Steve?
What's going on? It's Canada.
Epá, eu estou aqui distraído com a CMTV hoje, sabes como é que é? Foi dia...
Larga isso, pá. Larga
I'm just
isso.
saying, bro. That's where my mind...
Dave de Oliveira, how you been, buddy?
Good, from Hamilton, Ontario.
That's right. So somebody was just talking about a bullshit game in Hamilton, right?
Wasn't me.
That's where Dave is from.
Is it? Dave.
Now Dave's going to be bitter. No stats for you tonight. Anyway, we will look back at the last game of the season against Moreirense at Estádio Luz this past Sunday, and we'll basically do a season recap. We have a couple fun things that we're going to do. We're also going to award our season ending, the season end awards, best defensive player, best offensive player, most improved, revelation player, and MVP for the season. Each one of us four is going to give their choices. And we also have a great game for you. Keep, sell, or loan. And we're going to go through the roster.
Kill, marry, or smash, right?
Something
Kinda
like that.
Gotcha. Similar.
Something like that, I guess. You could do that. So anyway, let's get right into this Moreirense game. This recap is going to be pretty short. I'll give you the lineup. Varela was in goal. Douglas at right back. Almeida then recuperate in time. Luizão, Ruben Diaz in the middle. Grimaldo was on the left. Fesa, Pizzi, Zivkovic in the middle. Salvio on one wing, Servi on the other. And Jonas, despite not being at 100%, here he was. Not too much going on in this game. I think that some players were already on vacation, actually. There was only a few of them that you saw them running and trying doing something in this game. But other than that, I think that Benfica, I wouldn't say that they were lucky. I think that for the most part, I think they finished off the first half with over 70% of possession against Moreirense, 5 corners against 1. So, even though they weren't really creating a lot of chances, Moreirense wasn't doing anything. I don't think Varela made one save. And then we finished the game with 68% of possession. We did get that goal and a PK, but a goal is a goal. And it allowed us to get the 3 points. On the other side, our direct competitor that was in front of us ended up dropping points at the Madeira Island, and what was to become the beginning of the end for them.
I felt this was one of those games that both teams, the players on both teams went into like, okay, this is a schedule filler. We have to get it over and done with. Let's just go out there, get the game, get the 90 minutes gone, and let's go home. And then obviously the shocking results from Madeira obviously transpired into something that I don't think anyone was expecting. So the players look like, lackadaisical, but in the end, it worked out. I think
that Moreirense still were playing for something, if I'm not mistaken.
They were. What am I talking? Yeah, see, I'm still on vacation. Yeah, they needed to at least get a point in order to maintain or guarantee themselves that they would stay in the first division. Obviously, Studio lost, so they didn't need that point. But you're absolutely correct, dude. I'm still on vacation.
It's okay.
We'll just edit this part out.
That's all right. It is the last podcast of the season, as I mentioned.
And
so
I'm on vacation.
That Cristiano is much like
checked
Pizzi.
out.
Pizzi's been on vacation for most of the season, so Cristiano is already on vacation. Anyway, not much else from that Moreirense, with the exception of I think that there was a lot of people that were, and myself included, that were already resigned to the fact that we were going to finish in third place and we're going to be out of Champions League. Now we do get a chance to play in the Champions League, albeit it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be against the Skanderbeos or some other obscure team somewhere in Moldavia or Moldova. Moldavia?
It's a new country. Don't worry about it. We just make things. Nobody's going to fact check anyway.
So in the first round, you get quite a few interesting teams, and there was already a list of, and I think that Jafus put the list up of teams that we may be playing, and then in the second round, it gets increasingly difficult if we get past that first round. So, but we will get into that as we will break down all of Benfica's preseason schedule and the beginning of the season schedule from what we know so far, and we'll give you that in a little bit. But so season done and dusted with the win. Jonas did finish as the best scorer. 47 games for Benfica played all season in all competitions, 28 wins, 9 ties, 10 losses, 94 goals scored, 45 goals allowed. Jonas, best scorer of the team with 34 goals. Most assists, Franco Servi. And most minutes, Andre Almeida. Andre Almeida, Mr. Consistency, and he kind of had a breakout year, if you will.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I want to save a little bit for the little bits of the podcast to come, but Almeida made the absence of Nelsinho probably the least of the 3 absences. Maybe Ruben Diaz has a shout for Lindelof's spot, but I think the big miss was the keeper that left before the right back.
Yeah. Not since the 1972-73 season has Benfica players scored 34 goals in the Portuguese league, and it was Eusebio in 1966, 67, and 68, and then in that 72-73 season. But now Jonas did score that many goals. Rui Vitória's record after 3 seasons: 149 games, 104 wins, 21 draws, 24 losses, 69.7% winning percentage. Jorge Jesus after 3 seasons, and I hate to make the comparison, but I guess we could do it. 159 games, 109 wins, 23 draws, 27 losses, 68.5% winning percentage. So that's the comparison. So let's get right into it. We'll do the season recap now. And I guess I'll start with the biggest question, right? So if you guys follow the podcast, you know how we have felt about this season. We've talked a bunch of times about the failures, what was at stake, what was up for grabs, an historic occasion, if you will. But now here's the biggest question, and I guess I'll start with you, Cristiano. Who is to blame for the failure of this season?
I think it's one of those situations where everybody had their hand in the jar. You could go from the presidente to the whatever the general manager, whatever Rui Costa does, to whoever brings in players, to the coaching staff, to the players themselves. I think everyone is culpable to a certain extent. I think that they could have done a better job with bringing in reinforcements after losing the caliber of players that Benfica did. Going for an historical penta. I think this is a season that the management should have invested heavily, at least for this one season, and then clinch that historical feat and then go from there. The coaching staff, because as bad as the roster management, as bad as it was, the team was still right there within a shot of grabbing the title. And as we all sat here and pointed to that very disappointing performance that started to lose in the second half against Futebol Clube do Porto, and then the ensuing following week against Tondela, 2 weeks later against Tondela, back at the start of the lose. It's something that I won't soon forget. Miserable Champions League. I mean, I could just go on and on. I mean, repeat myself over and over about the failures of the season. So I think the coaching staff is also at fault. I think the players, the pieces of the world, these guys were supposed to be key players this season, and they were non-existent. I mean, they were worse than non-existent. They were terrible. Luizão, when he played down the stretch, I understand he went a long while without playing, but did not even look like a player that belongs on a roster. You could just, I think you could point the finger at every single sector, from management to players, goalkeeper. I mean, you name it. It's one of those combined efforts that I think everyone has a hand in.
Yeah, and Steve, you had been mentioning something for a bit now, that the players just got too comfortable. Winning 4 in a row. There's certainly guys there that were there for all 4, but that was one of the theories that you felt strongly about, was that players resigned. How much do you think that played a part in it? How much do you think the coaching played a part in it? How much do you think that not having the quality of individual talent played a part in this season?
If we're gonna weigh it out, I think the individual talent is probably the smallest factor of the 3. We still had comparably, if not the best squad in the league, top 3 competitive. We were there. I have to say that the team that won the league does not have is not that much better than us, or even if they're better than us at all. You'd really have to really try to weigh it down. But every time I do, I don't find Porto stronger individual quality wise, player by player. I don't think that they're that much better than us. That's the reason that they won. And then when you want to go looking at coaching staff and players, I think that's where the biggest factor lies. Like you said, I always looked at the games where you needed to be playing at a certain level to show, playing at a certain intensity level, at a certain concentration level, certain attitude needed to be present, and it wasn't. And you have to look at the guys that look complacent on the field. I mean, I've always been quick to praise Pizzi because he's the type of player that I enjoy watching, et cetera, et cetera. But he had a season where he looked like he was disinterested lots of times. Andre Almeida, not so much, but you look at the guys that have been there since the first one, and you feel that maybe some of that hunger is gone. Maybe some of that focus, that desire is gone. And I think that played a big part, especially in those more difficult games in terms of when you, not the Sportings and the Portos, because we lost those as well, or we lost points in them as well, or lost them. But I don't think attitude or commitment was in question in any of those games. I think a couple of them went by the way of some luck or whatever. But in the smaller team games where we were super consistent in previous years, we weren't so much this year, and it paid. The Rui Vitória, the coaching part of the equation, you guys know how I feel. I mean, Rui Vitória, to me, has never brought the team the tools it needs to break down other teams, to be comfortable in games, to command games, dominate games. It's always, for me, it's always been by chance and player quality that's really been at the forefront of our success. He has bettered. The team has gotten better tactically within the past few years, but I still think, and I don't think anything will ever change my mind. He could win the championship next year. And I still think this. I don't think Rui Vitória is, at least tactically, a coach that is of the level that Benfica needs to go ahead with what I believe the club's intentions are, dominating in Portugal, making respectable runs in Europe, and selling good players. Nobody wants to sell good players, but you know what I mean? Getting good value out of players out of your squad. I mean, you guys don't want to hear it, but that is got to be part of our MO. And the type of football that Rui Vitória plays, it doesn't necessarily put your players out there as a show. Like, it's not a showcase. You don't command the ball. You don't play it like an attacking fluid football. For the most part, we did for portions of this year. I'll admit to that, but it's not ever present, and that's not the type of football that brings value to your midfielders, your forwards, etc., even your fullbacks. So
Hey, Steve, look, man,
It is what it is.
you're right. We weren't as consistent against the smaller teams as we've been in the past. But the fact we only took 3 points out of a possible 12 from our main direct rivals,
That's huge.
that's unacceptable. I mean,
Huge.
3 points out of a possible 12. I mean, that is more disturbing than anything else. I mean, because not only are you not making up those points, but you're giving it to them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like double the jam.
Look, I think at the end of the day, as we've seen, consistency is going to win championships. And if you look down, Clubismo aside, you have to think that the team that was the most consistent won the league. Not necessarily sometimes the team with the best squad or played the best football. But consistency did win the league, and I think that there was something that Benfica was this season. They were very inconsistent. For me, the blame has to be split up among both Luis Vieira and some of the decisions that were made in the beginning of the season. We're not privy to conversations that go on between Luis Vieira and Rui Vitória as far as what do you need? Do you need players? What are some sectors that you need to reinforce? We don't know what conversations took place. From what I understand and from what I heard Luis Vieira, he said that he gave Rui Vitória everything that he asked for. Again, we're talking about guys that we know. Douglas was an ask by Rui Vitória. Gabigol was an ask by Rui Vitória. So I mean, those guys, we know how those ended up, but I don't want to put the blame solely on Rui Vitória. Yes, you guys know how we feel about Rui Vitória as a coach, and some of what Steve's already mentioned, that he failed to give the tools to the team to be a dominating team, to be a team that controls the games, and that doesn't really let themselves get be pressured by some of these little teams, as we saw throughout the year. So I think that the blame has to be split. I think it's poor preparation on our part. The guys that went out, we didn't replace properly. There was other sectors of the field that we could have done a lot better than just Felipe Augusto or even Gabigol. Look, it is what it is. Now it's done and dusted. And I think that in past years, we have criticized Rui Vitória here. And at the end of the season, the title was there. So we've always resigned ourselves to, okay, well, yeah, the title was there. Despite all our criticisms, we got to the end as we wanted.
But again, look, I didn't get into ripping Rui Vitória here, and you asked.
We've done that enough.
I know you asked me a question, and I spread it out
Yeah.
amongst everyone involved in preparing this season for Benfica. But let's not forget, as bad as it was to not bring in the caliber players we expected, right? I mentioned this in a pod previously, and I'll mention it again. There are players on this team that became key parts of this team, right? Very important players, the Krovinoviches of the world, Zivkovic, Rafa. Those three guys in particular, at one point or another, were as important as anyone, with the exception of maybe Jonas, to the success of this club. And all three of these guys were discarded by Rui Vitória. Now, do we know if Luis Vieira, whomever the hell was in charge of putting together this plantel, did they say, look, you have these players at your disposal? Because if they did, I like to tell you, maybe their planning wasn't as bad as we anticipate, because they were right on about those guys. So whose fault was it that Rui Vitória wasn't able to get the best out of these guys earlier? Whose fault was it?
Yeah.
I mean, can you blame Luis Vieira if he believes that those guys should have been a bigger part of the club earlier than what they were? I mean, think about it. Zivkovic was ready to leave if it wasn't for Krovinovic getting injured.
Yeah. But I mean,
there was options there. Ruben Diaz. Yes, I look, I'm the first one to admit, coming into the season, I wasn't sure about this guy. I sit here. I seen him play against the Madeira. I seen him play in the Youth Champions League against Real Madrid, and he looked pathetic. He looked slow. He looked like, and the guy's been a total transformation. He's totally opposite of what I expected. So Andre Almeida, we all could sit here and talk about he had a way better season than we all anticipated. There's only one weak position that we could definitely sit here and say with 100% certainty and say that position was not upgraded. That's the goaltending position.
And it cost us 3 points.
It cost
That's
us.
what I say. The one that definitely cost us was the keeper position.
Okay. But every other position that was let go, we could make an argument that those guys, at least, look, Ruben Dias stepped in. He had a phenomenal season. The guy might be starting for Portugal, right? After one full season at Benfica, might be starting for Portugal at the World Cup within a month. Andre Almeida, a huge surprise. I think way better than any of us would anticipate, right? And then Pizzi is just a flop. But then Zivkovic, Krovinovic, and even Rafa, they had a way better season than we all anticipated. So we might have to look at the coaching staff here a little bit more. But I'm in a giving mood today. I'm in a good mood. You know, if you guys can't tell, I'm a little tired because I had a very tough day watching these.
It was exhausting.
It was an exhausting day watching these terrible scenes happen. I mean, believe it or not, as much as I want to laugh, it's despicable what's happening with our neighbors. What's happening in Portuguese football today. I mean, if you talk about a black guy, today is it. And I've had a very exhausting day, believe it or not. And so I'm in a giving mood, and I'll say, look, I think everyone has to share in part of the failure of the season.
Yeah.
But if I'm hyped up and you get me in the mood, I can sit here and rip Rui Vitória all day because, like I mentioned, those guys were all key ingredients to what was a successful part of the season for Benfica. He just wasn't able to take advantage of them.
Yeah. And look, you can make the argument for Rafa that Rafa got enough opportunities to prove his worth, and he really fell short. And it wasn't until Savio got hurt.
Was gone. When the pressure was gone, when Rafa was gone, is when he finally showed what he could do. Just to go back on these three guys, Krovinovic, he came into the season a little bit knocked up. I think it was a hernia.
Yeah,
it's Zivkovic is the one who was probably better than Krovinovic for a couple of months. Like for the amount of time that Krovinovic played, Zivkovic had at least that long of a season or that long of a stretch where he was better than Krovinovic was. And he's the one that, since the day we signed him, we had high expectations, but only this year did we really see some consistent performances and playing time for him. So I'm like, all the guys that Chris mentioned at least had the expectations to be as good as they proved to be. So that at least shows on roster planning or whatever you want to call it, that we had earmarked the right types of players, I think.
Okay.
So again, dude, it's definitely a conversation that could be had. And Steve, I was trying to jump in there, and I'll just to jump in on Zivkovic, you're 100% correct. And even Zivkovic, it took a disastrous beginning of the season for him to switch to 4-3-3. Which, look, if I give him credit for one thing, is the fact that he realized that it wasn't working. Whatever the hell was going on was not working, and he needed to change it. And he needed to include another guy that possesses that type of football, a guy that could control the ball, control the midfield, spread the ball around, could carry the team up the field, because Pizzi was not having that right from early on. So if there's any credit to be given to Rui Vitória, is that he noticed that something needed to be done ASAP, and he was able to adjust and turn that things around, right? But even then, Krovinovic gets hurt. Zivkovic was still an afterthought. And we had this conversation about João Carvalho. You still wasn't thinking about, it was only once João Carvalho fumbled and tripped over himself, did not look good. Then he's like, oh, snap, all right, maybe I'll try. And it's like, I'm not going to give guy credit for that, right? It's kind of one of those desperation moves. Nothing is working. Let's see what else I have. Because he had ample opportunities to throw Zivkovic into this team, into the starting over the years now. I mean, Zivkovic didn't just get here. Okay, Zivkovic has been here for 2.5 years. Well, 2 years now.
Yeah.
So there's plenty. Well, three. Like, I don't even remember. Two. My memory shot.
And look, we can't even. There was a theory out there that if Zivkovic played so many games, then we would have to pay him so much, and that there was a theory that Rui Vitória wasn't playing him because of that. That's ridiculous. You got to pay. You got to play your best guys, and that kid is talent. We've said here since day one, since he joined the team, that he's had talent. All right, but speaking of talent and players, we're going to go down the roster, and each one of us is going to the choices are sell, keep, or loan. So I'm going to start with Cristiano. We're gonna go Steve, then Dave, then myself. So just a short answer.
Why I always gotta risk my life first?
All right. Well,
Bye.
I'll go first.
because you're right next to me.
Tá bem, bora lá.
Okay, Svilar.
What about him? No, I'm sorry. What about him?
Murder Mary.
Oh, the keep, sell? Keep.
Keep, sell, loan. You have a loan option.
I said keep.
Keep, sell,
Okay,
alone.
just making sure you know the third option.
This is going well. I'm glad that I kind of told you guys what we were doing.
That's why
early
I
afternoon.
went first, so I could fumble and get it out of the way. Keep.
I'm next. I would loan Svilar.
Loan if he's not the starter next year.
I'm gonna go keep. Varela.
Well, I'll say keep because between taças e isto, aquilo, he could play some of those games, and I think he'll learn more at Benfica than he will anywhere else. And who's to say that this Jankanowski's guy, the guy we signed, Blakademas, that guy's, I
don't even know if
ready.
that's his name.
I heard
Sounds
some
like that.
whatever. We'll see. But I'll keep and give him a run. Who's next?
Varela.
Oh my God. De graça. Fora, parrua.
That's not the choice, bro.
Sell.
Keep, or loan.
How am I going to say self? I don't think that guy's worth anything. For free. Give the guy away. Peace out.
Steve?
Sell.
Dave?
Sell for $13.5 million.
So Cristiano can wear the mankini. Yeah, I'm get rid of him. Either loan or
nice
sell.
Nice guy. I took a picture with him. Super nice guy. But
Paul Lopes.
Paul Lopes retired, bro.
He should retire.
He retired. What are you? You want to do this game? You don't even know. The guy said he retired.
Talking about the guys on the current roster.
He said he retired.
Steve?
Yeah, sell, retire, whatever the case.
How you gonna sell that guy?
Dave?
You sell that guy, they give you the invoice. You got to pay for it to ship him out.
He's got to leave. That's not the. I don't have an option. I don't have a fourth one.
Yeah.
He'll join this training staff.
Yeah, agreed. Let's turn our attention now to defenders. Grimaldo.
Sell.
Keep.
Sell to Napoli.
That's what's going to happen. But they have this new kid. This kid's phenomenal. They said that his agent and the president of Espanyol was in Lisbon today to finalize a 10 million euro deal with Benfica.
Aaron Martin, fantastic young footballer. And I think he'll take the little Grimaldo spot in a heartbeat. So I'm all for selling Grimaldo. Even if this kid wasn't coming in, I'm all for selling Grimaldo because I don't think he's achieved the heights that he once did, and I don't think he'll get there. So thank you. Peace. I'm going with sell too because
you jumped Steve.
If it's
I said keep.
I'm the last one, so it's like counterclock, just like when you're playing cards.
Right. In Portugal or in America, because it's Portugal, you go to the right, in America, you go left.
Depende, estás a jogar a sobe e desce ou a lerpa. I'm going to sell because if we sell Grimaldo, which means that we won't get rid of Zivkovic, and I'm in. Douglas.
He's not ours.
He's not ours.
But do we extend his loan?
His loan is done.
Do we extend?
He's already said goodbye.
Do we have an option?
I honestly, look. I'll be fair. I wouldn't mind bringing him back. Depends on what his salary is. No, I don't think. Look, down the stretch, he wasn't terrible, but I wouldn't bring him back for one reason. I want to see what we have. I mean, is it Amaral? Amaral's on the left, on the right, or one of these kids on the B team. I want to see what these guys have. If not, there's got to be one of these Argentinians who like to crack people and break them in half. Who wants to get a run at Benfica? So let's go. Another Moxie in the house.
Steve.
No, because he's supposedly already gone. So I'd sell him or not renew or whatever.
Not renew. Dave?
I'd bring him back if the price is right.
Nah, get rid of him for me. Jardel.
Yeah, put some more umph into your stuff. Jardel, keep. At this point, he's not worth much. Might as well keep him.
Epa.
Come on, the guy's 31 or 32. What are you going to get for him? $2?
Do you take Jardel over Luizão?
Yeah.
Yeah, I said keep.
Okay.
But I'm not trying to sell Luizão. I'm not trying to sell Luizão.
But you're saying like, screw it. For the hell of it, keep.
No, because at some point, there's players that, even though they're good caliber players, right? it makes more sense in keeping him than so, because you're not going to get a bang for your buck for a guy like a Jardel. But again, 4 or 5 million, is it worth it? No, because you're not going to get a guy probably as good as he is for that type of money with the experience and the leadership that he brings. So might as well just keep him.
That's some FM talk right there. There you go.
Who?
Steve?
FM, football manager.
Oh, yeah, you know that, baby.
I would keep him too, for the exact same reasons Chris say. He's not a world beater, but he's super steady. The money that you would get for him is not worth losing him for. So.
Dave?
One of the few guys that I have on here that I bring back.
Yeah, I would keep him too. Cristiano Ruben Dias.
Oh, keep. Why is that even an option?
Yeah, I
Going
think
through every single player, dude.
Okay.
we got to. I think Ruben Dias' just stature, his what he embodies as a symbol of the club, we have to try to keep him for as long as we possibly can. Leadership quality, the fact that the kid is good, but he's not amazing. He's not a world beater. He's not worth 40 million to anybody. I think any 15, 20 million bid, we should just say, you know what?
Steve, he does have a World Cup ahead of him, so let's slow down and say he's not worth 40.
Chris,
I mean, let's wait a minute.
A good World Cup is going to make him worth 40 million because he played 6 good games.
No,
he's
because
he's not Ricardo Carvalho.
No, but it's because he's a 20-year-old. Yeah, but those prices are different. In today's world, Nesta is worth 90. Ricardo Carvalho is worth 85. So for 40 in today's market, for a 20-year-old.
I guess it's somewhat possible.
For a 20-year-old starting center back with Champions League experience, with national team World Cup experience, and just the fact you put on a World Cup jersey, you step out there and just warm up and break a sweat, your price sky rises. So
I still hope we keep him.
I hope we keep him too, but to say he ain't worth 40, I've seen a lot worse sold for 40.
Yeah, I don't know about that Champions League experience you talk of, Dave.
I don't think he played.
No?
Well,
sure.
Did we really play in the Champions League?
He was there. He thought a lot.
He's a must keep, like you guys had said. Depending on what he does in the World Cup, the Sharks might come around, but hold on to him as long as we can.
You gotta keep. Ele racha tudo em frente dele, bro. You gotta keep him. Love that. That guy, it's gonna come to a point where the guys in Portugal, they're sprinting for 50-50 ball. They're like, it's yours. I love, because that's what happened with George Costa. They had we're good. We're off. Yeah, so I love that.
Luizão.
You can't sell him.
Can't sell him
unless you sell him to Brazil.
I would to Brazil. Brazil don't have money, bro. Usually you go there to buy players because they don't have money. Now you're gonna buy it all for you. Stop.
Well, maybe sell him for a prospect. I don't know.
That's not selling. That's trade.
It's the same thing, just different type of currency.
Yeah. I think this ain't the slavery days. I think trading bodies, because that's what you call it, currency. That's trading bodies, currency. That's slavery. I think. Look, I love Luizão. I will forever be thankful for him, but I wouldn't mind if he took one of those Nuno Gomes positions at this point, because as much as he's done for the club, I think we need to treat him with respect, but not give him too much respect to where he hurts the team. And if he's anything close to what we saw these last couple of appearances, he'd be doing nothing but hurting the team. So for that fact alone, appreciate everything you've done. We got another Brazilian leader, a guy who's Portuguese now, Portuguese neutralized, but Jardel, who could do the same papel that he does. And
neutralized.
Yeah,
Naturalized.
Neutralized. If you didn't mention, nobody would have picked up on it. So I think Luizão, just take up one of those cabinet positions and make appearances. Come to Newark Sport Club Benfica.
Yeah.
What?
Steve?
What? Well, with Chris, I believe Luizão, we to an extent owe him to basically decide how and when he wants to go. If he wants to renew for another year and he doesn't really push himself to the point where he's trouble being on the bench, etc., I'd allow him to. We can't sell him.
But you can't sell him. But I don't want him. But he's taking up a roster spot. That's the part. And Steve,
salary.
Steve, here's the thing. I learned, and I know you can't stand American sports. Steve, you can't stand American sports.
I can't.
But I'm
you're going to give me an analogy anyway.
I'm going to give you a little story. I absolutely, Timo, I love you, absolutely despise the Boston Red Sox, right? I can't stand them. I can't stand. I mean, between them and Porto, they're very close.
Man.
I hate those. And Pedro Martinez, who's one of the greatest pitchers of all time, was a free agent. And Theo Epstein, who ran that organization, brought him their first championship, and God knows how long, he let him go. And he eventually signed with the Mets or the Mets, I believe. But that long story short,
the Phillies first, I think,
or vice, whatever the hell.
We're still talking about American sports.
The point is that when they questioned Theo Epstein and they said to Theo, "How the hell do you let go of an icon, one of the greatest pitchers? Forget your franchise in the history of the whole game." And he turned around, and I learned this off of this guy. Now he's in Chicago Cubs doing a tremendous job, but I can't stand the Sox. By the time he was there, and he turned around and he said one thing that will stick for me for the rest of my life, which was, I would rather let go of a guy a year too soon than a year too late. And that's my analogy here with Luisão. As much as I love him, I'd rather let him go rather than keep him around and taking up a roster spot, salary spot. And again, I don't think he'd be a bad influence in the locker room, but I think we've done enough to thank him. I think by giving him a job, a lifetime job, I think that's a way to thank him. He's not adding much at this point.
Steve?
Dave?
Oh, it's already a year too late in my books. Have him join the technical or executive staff from here.
Yeah. No, I think I agree. I think that if Luisão stays to the club, I think that the club will do a great thing for Luisão to repay him for all the years of service. I feel the same way. I think that he right now, besides that leadership, and there's leaders that have emerged in the locker room, there's not much else that Luisão can add.
You can make him Shell's right-hand man.
Yeah, could be.
You guys didn't get it.
Yeah.
Does missing a couple fingers in his right hand.
Hey, Steve, thanks for stating the obvious, man. Isso era só para as pessoas que compreendem, pá. Não precisavas de explicar o jogo.
I love you, Shell and Luisão. You guys keep up.
Eliseu.
Dude, come on.
You can't sell. That's let go. You can't sell, keep or loan.
The end of the contract.
That's peace out. Put them in a Vespa. Send them to the movies.
To the movies. It would be like that scene in E.T. where he's riding a bike in the moon.
Off to the moon.
So it'll be in a Vespa in the moon. Steve.
Yeah, there's no spot for him in the roster anymore.
Dave?
I don't think we could sell him, but you know what I mean.
Dave?
I have him being the ambassador to the Casa Benfica and Terceira.
Good call. Good call. Hey, maybe you'll end up playing for Santa Clara now that Santa Clara has been promoted.
That's a good show.
Yeah.
Not the same island, but hey, he might jump on that.
They're like the Azorian Benfica, right? With the eagle on their
Yeah.
So, you know
there's
him.
ties.
They changed up. Yeah.
Just tell them. It's club. We moved.
Yeah. Here's one, Lisandro. Cristiano.
So I like him a lot better than all you guys do. But I mean, at this point, if you're bringing in this kid Conti from Cologne, who's 23-year-old captain, a guy who has international potential to play at the Argentinian level,
he wasn't called. He's not on the list.
I didn't say he is. He's got potential. Pay attention.
He's 23. He's not getting called to the World Cup. I don't know. To me,
he's not playing at a big team in a big league.
As a center back, that's not that huge of a deal, but it doesn't show that he's amazing either. But that's for sure.
So what was your?
Doesn't show
that he would sell him.
What was your answer?
Sell. I said I'll sell. Steve? No, I didn't. Wait, Steve. When I said international.
No, I know.
It was Conti, not Lisandro.
I know that, but you're saying that Conti has the aspirations to be a Argentina center back.
Yes.
And Alfredo says that he isn't going to the World Cup, so that gives you a clue as to what kind of quality he has, which is also true. I would have to say at 23 years old.
I disagree with that though, because look, you got a guy like Bataglia who's a Sporting who has no business, and they considered him. So if you consider him, and I like to think Conti at Benfica, they'll consider him too. So for that point alone, that fact alone, I said has the potential, and I'll ride with that.
Steve?
Fair enough. I would sell Lisandro in a heartbeat.
Dave?
Sell. He's only played one half at Inter. It's not been a good loan spell for him.
Yeah, sell for me too. Midfielders now. Cristiano Samaris.
Whoa. Andre Almeida.
Oh, sorry. Did I miss it? Oh,
This
sorry.
guy's, man.
I missed Andre Almeida.
Was that the only one?
That was the only one.
Andre Almeida. Sell. You got to strike when the iron is hot, and it's as hot as it's ever going to get. Sell now. 15 mil.
Steve?
I don't think he'd ever get the value that we actually could use him for with all the different positions that he could play.
Let George Mendes represent him.
Yeah, fair enough. But still, I would keep him.
Dave?
Chris took it right out of my notes. I have bring him back unless they can get 15 million for him.
Oliveira's thinking of like
you guys are going for the jugular with these prices.
Bro, think about it. It's never gonna be as it's never
No, absolutely.
high.
Yeah.
And it's what 29, 28, 29? You gotta do it now.
28 having the best season he's ever had. If he's ever got any value, it's now.
Now, yeah.
That's for sure.
I say keep him, and I'll refer back to a lot of times Cristiano has mentioned the word when referring to Andre Almeida, polyvalent. He's a guy that could play multiple positions, so he's a guy that could do a lot inside the roster.
Yep.
So midfielders, Samaris.
Sell.
Yeah. It's his time to move on, as sad as it might be. I know he's got a certain. I'm sure I know he's got a certain role in the locker room. He's well liked amongst the fans. He's well liked amongst his teammates. But I think his time has come.
Sell. Keaton Parks is ready to take over for him. Sell. Peace.
Dave.
Sell if they can get 10 million for him.
Epa.
Peraí.
That's what we
milhões, pai. São milhões.
Peraí. Vocês questionam se o Samaris vale 10 milhões. Mas acreditam que o Varela vai por 15. Eu estou fodido com você. Já não faz mais nada.
Like you said before, 40 is the new 90, and
I guess. To me, it's definitely a sell, and I agree with Steve. There's definitely some ties to this club with Samaris. Well, here's the other thing, right? So let's say Rui Vitória leaves.
Andas tu para aquelas pontes que o Yoka falou, andas lá.
Let's say Rui Vitória leaves and a new coach comes in and he decides to get the best out of Samaris, just like JJ did. So then what? Anyway, to me, it's a sell too. Krovinovic.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, he's had an injury-ridden season, so he's worth very little. But there's a player there. You know that there's talent, that there's creativity, et cetera, et cetera. You got to keep him. You got to get value from him again, or if nothing else, I mean, he should be able to give his contribute in the Portuguese league at the very least.
Yeah, Dave.
Between Krovinovic, Pizzi, and Zivkovic, one, if not two, are have to leave. So I'm keeping Krovinovic.
Okay. For me as a keeper also. Martin Krian, which spent some time in the B team, wasn't as a regular as in the B team. He's definitely going to be part of the team next year. But as they've mentioned, that area of the field, that position is already overflooded with guys. Cristiano, what do you think?
Inconclusive, to be determined later, right? I mean, come on, you can't make a decision on a guy like that.
Also, we must mention that along with the B team, Benfica will also have a U23 team. So from what I understand and what I can remember, I think Martin Krian is under 23.
Oh, yeah.
So he might be available to play on that team.
Too early to make a determination on it.
Yeah, Steve.
Yeah, you have to keep him just because you can't give a kid a fair shake if you say you're going to get rid of him already. I mean, I don't think he costs us much. You got to hold on to him and see what he's really made of.
Yeah, Dave.
Loan him if he's already been with Benfica B this year. Loan him up to another Premier League team.
Okay,
Premier League in
Well,
England.
First division.
Primeira Liga.
I know.
Carvalho.
Who? João?
João Carvalho.
How many Carvalhos do you know?
João Carvalho. I know a lot. William Carvalho, but he likes getting slapped around. I don't know. He might be busy.
Yeah,
João Carvalho. Vamos ver. João Carvalho, I would loan because I think we have too many options in the center of the park, and right now he's the man missing out.
Yeah, he's the guy on the outs. Steve?
I hate to say it, but I think we're gonna have to. Well, depends who else leaves, but my first option is loan.
Dave?
Loan as well. First round could like.
Yeah, I'm loan. I'm inclined towards
Guys,
loan.
smart. You all agree with me.
Fesa.
Keep. It's that. Look, first of all, a guy with his injury history, I don't think his value will ever be worth what he does on the field for Benfica. So for that fact alone, I keep him unless I get some type of ludicrous offer. But even then, it's going to be very hard to get someone to replace Feja and do what he does on the field for Benfica. So I would absolutely keep him.
Yeah. Dave?
No, Steve.
Steve?
Keep. I really hope that Pedro Rodrigues comes back to Benfica and kind of gets a little bit tutored on the defensive side of things, but from Fesa, because I'd like to see a player in that position that plays the ball better than Fesa does, but I can absolutely see his importance in the squad. So
when he's as good as he is at recovering the ball like he is, Steve, I don't give a crap what he does going forward.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah, this guy's the backbone of our defensive midfield, so must keep.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I think that the one thing that Benfica did wrong, aside of many others, at the end of the season, was to publicly apologize to Fesa for not getting him that 13th or 14th or 15th championship that he had in a row. We finally broke his record.
They said that
It's
publicly on Twitter or something?
Benfica should have apologized to Fesa.
Oh, okay. Fair
That's
enough.
what I'm saying. Zivkovic.
It's tough. I love him. I want to keep him, but again, man, I think right now my inclination is to keep him. But again, we're early into the off season. I mean, it's day number 2 in the off season. It all depends who they bring. You know what I mean? Someone has to leave, guys. At the end of the day, someone has to leave. And if his value is high, hopefully he gets called up to the Serbian national team, represents himself well in the World Cup. As much as I want to keep him, sell, because we're just going to have too many options for that position. Yeah. And again, unless you want to go too deep per position, then I'm okay with it. But right now, it's a little bit early, but because of what can happen throughout the transfer season. There's Renatos. There's so many rumors going what's going to happen. So based on what we know now is he's here, and I'd like to keep him, but that could change.
It is projected that he will make the Serbian national team. They haven't announced the official list yet, but he is projected. And I think that if he does go, he will have a role to play. He's definitely a player with a lot of market out there, especially when you originally came to Benfica. We were super surprised that Zivkovic had chosen or that Benfica had gotten him, a player of tremendous talent at that early age. So he definitely has market, and understanding that Benfica will have to sell players. There's no way around it. He's probably one of the guys with the biggest market, especially with the World Cup and him featuring for Serbia. Steve?
With all that you say, you kind of see that he's probably one of the guys with the most market, but I still like to keep him. I'd like to sell other guys before him. I mean, that's
I agree.
My gut.
Dave?
Like you said earlier, strike while the iron's hot. We got to sell him. Now, before Krovinovic went down, this guy was not even on the bench at some games. So sell while his market is high. And earlier in the season, there was that leaked report that his salary only gets increased from here. So
yeah.
So
his salary is going to get even higher next season.
Every year that he stays at Benfica, he gets an increase.
I need
an
agent like that.
Yeah. To me, it's a keeper, but understanding that that Benfica has to sell players, probably need to take advantage of that. Next one, Pizzi.
You know those picnic baskets? I'd put them in one of those and drop them off at the church doorstep somewhere.
Like a lost child.
That's it. I put them in one of those picnic baskets and drop them off.
Steve?
Yeah. At this point, I like the player, but I think that either needs a serious look in the mirror or maybe somebody to really fight for his position, which I don't know if that would be the case, but I'd sell him.
Dave?
He's one of those players that's been complacent around here, so I think a change would be good for both him and the club.
Yeah, I think that I'm going to revert back to the statement that Cristiano had early on. Better a year too soon than a year too late.
You learned
but
that
then
already.
again, it's already too late.
No, because I think that that PT still has a market. He can still play a role. And this season, I think that there was a lot of things that went wrong that hinged around PT's performance. Because after last year's performance, I think he basically he just blew up.
Just
I don't think he could recover.
Just send the other team scouts video from last season and tell them it was this season. That's it.
Keaton Parks.
Gotta give the kid a chance. Steve? I liked what I saw. I think there's something there. I'm not gonna sit here and say this guy's gonna be a starter for Benfica for the next 10 years. But I liked what I saw, and I think, for the value, the salary, and whatever, I think he could do Samaris's job for a tenth of his wages, and so where you could spend that money elsewhere. So I'll absolutely keep and give him another chance and see what happens.
Steve?
Too much of a question mark. I think if there is actually something there, you'll see more of it at another club than you will at ours. I'd like to think that we should be looking at a player that is more established or that we know more about. So I would loan him just to let him cut his teeth out there and see what comes back.
Dave?
Keep him and have him learn under Fascia so we can learn that defensive style midfield position.
Yeah. For me as a keeper also, Felipe Augusto.
Jesus Christ. I don't see any fans wanting him back.
Peraí, pá, ainda não chegou à tua altura.
He's doing good. He's doing good. Steve.
I'd sell him, man. I'd sell him.
The thing with Felipe Augusto, is I think he's a better player than what he's shown at Benfica.
I agree, but I think he's proven himself to have a certain attitude that does not coincide with what the club wants or needs. So yeah,
I just think a guy like him, if you're going to have him on your club, you have to play him. He has to get regular minutes. If not, it's just a waste. He's not the type of player that's going to give you 10, 15, 20 minutes here and there. He needs to play. He needs to play with regularity, and I don't think he has that space on this team right now. So for that reason alone, if I could get good buck for him, good money, I'll sell him. If not, loan him out.
Yeah. Steve?
Sell.
Dave?
What's considered good money for Felipe Augusto? Sell him.
A bag of balls.
No,
and no small.
6 mil, 7 mil.
So this.
I think we paid 4, right?
Really?
Yeah, 6 mil, 7
6 mil for Felipe Augusto?
Yeah.
Are you insane?
I'm not insane at all. I mean, there's better. Look, think
In
about
today's market, man. I don't know.
Think about the rumors like with Benfica with the kid Tabata at Moreirense of Portimonense, right? Who's a couple years younger than him, but a kid who's really never done much but played a couple of games, a handful of games for Portimonense. Benfica's reportedly buying 50% of his rights for 3.5 mil, which if you get the other 50 is 7 million. So for a guy like that who's never really done much, the fact alone that Augusto put on the Benfica shirt, that's worth something. So for that reason alone, 6-7 mil, like I said.
Yeah, loan him out to Braga.
And watch him play stupid well.
Yeah, it worked for Danilo.
Well, I mean, some guys are just at that level. Yeah. I think that Felipe Augusto doesn't have the level to play at Benfica. But if he plays for Braga, if he plays for Guimarães, if he plays for Marítimo, that's at his level. I grouped the wingers and the forwards, so we'll go with that. Jimenez.
So,
Steve.
So,
Dave.
Hopefully, he has a great World Cup, and we can sell him for more than 20 million.
This guy's Moneyball.
Yeah, I'm with Sell also. Cristiano Seferovic.
You couldn't sell him if you tried.
Well, what do you want to do?
Give them away. Discount. Put them on the what is it? 99.9999% off sell rack.
Put him on a Goodwill rack.
There it is.
Steve?
I like Cristiano said, I don't think he's got much market. I think there might be more of a player than we did see this season, given what happened. Because he has, I don't think he'll have much market. Even
he's going to the World Cup.
I was going to say he's going to go to the World Cup, and then Switzerland went to the World Cup. If we'll make money, fine. If we're not going to make money, I'd hold on to him just to give him another chance at the.
Sell him to Grasshopper or Young Boys.
Young Boys.
Young boys.
Didn't Young Boys smash us like 5-2 this season?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they signed someone from us.
Suleimani.
Suleimani.
Yeah,
There it is, there it is.
Dave?
Seferovic, I would hope he would stay because I bought his jersey at the beginning of the year.
Ooh.
But
Whoa.
after the game he scored against Chaves in the last minute there. But again, if he has a strong World Cup for Switzerland, anything more than 10 million, he can go.
Cristiano, you want to give Dave advice about buying jerseys with players' names on it?
No, there's not. I don't have a problem with that.
All right.
I never had a problem with that.
I bought 3 this year.
Honestly,
All right. Who were the other 2?
Luizão and Jonas.
Okay, you're safe.
I get that. I think Luizão is going to be a legend, so regardless, he's already a legend.
Yeah.
Cristiano Servi.
Sell. I think he's hit his ceiling, and I don't think it's going to go any higher, guys. I'm sorry. I like him. He's a pesky little SOB, a guy that puts in his shift, that puts in the work, a guy that never gives up. He's got good agility, good ginga, good, but I think já deu o que tinha a dar.
Steve?
Yeah. For a profit, I would sell him. This is all taken with the added bit that we don't know what's going to happen in the off season, et cetera, et cetera. Alfredo quite rightly said that he sees a maybe future left back for us. So first option is definitely to sell, but that doesn't mean that I don't see some value or some reason to keep him along.
Dave?
I'd keep Servi. I feel like there's still a role for him, and I don't think he's reached his top value yet with the club.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. The only thing with me is that Servi stays. He's blocking Gonçalves and he's blocking Jota.
Fair.
That's how I see that.
Not really, because you could have Servi play with regularity and have those kids learn and come in and play Taça de Cerveja. I mean, you can make it work, but I just think Benfica could do better at that position. That's it.
I still think Gonçalves didn't play enough this year.
Don't forget Willock also.
Yeah. No, Servi. The only thing that I kind of have in my back pocket is your comment and something that I've already thought of before, that if push came to shove, I think we could probably adapt him to left back, and that's why.
You just want to throw the midgets in a fullback spot. That's it.
Yeah, if I wasn't making money off of it, I wouldn't really be too keen on selling Servi. That's my thing.
Cristiano Rafa.
Keep.
Steve?
Yeah, I still think that I think Rafa's gonna. If Rafa gets,
don't say it, Steve. Don't say it.
Keep. Let's just say keep.
Yeah,
because
Rafa
I think I think Rafa's got a ceiling still higher than what he's shown us.
Steve is gonna say he's gonna blow up next year.
Yeah. I was getting there. I'm not gonna lie. I was getting there.
He was on the cusp. He was a lot of games. I mean, if he's able to,
if he defines in the 70% of the times that he gets to,
not even 40%.
I'm not even just saying finishing a goal, but I'm saying
about
like
finishing. Yeah.
I'm saying even just like
ball.
that final pass, that shot on goal. If he gets his percentages up on that, that's
his
a
value skyrockets.
A lot of money. Yes.
Dave?
We're gonna keep him because I feel like we're gonna, like we saw the second half of the season, we're gonna make a role for Rafa next season.
Yeah. Cristiano, Jonas.
Hey, you didn't say.
You didn't answer.
Oh, I didn't say? I keep him.
Always taking the easy way out.
Jonas.
Come on, dude.
I think, is that a keep from everyone?
Yeah.
Cristiano Salvio. Cuidado.
Just to look up, he's sold.
You don't want to hurt anybody's feelings.
I'd keep because again, unless he has a spectacular World Cup, we don't even know if he's going to make the 23s on the preliminary 35. Unless he has a spectacular World Cup, I said this before, so I can't change my tune now.
He was part of the qualifiers.
Fine, but he's on 35, and
Yeah,
we don't know
he
if he's
finished
going
the season coming back from injury too.
So there's still a question mark there. So, like I stated here on the podcast many times before, a player with his injury history is a player that a lot of teams will not pay the big bucks for. So for that reason alone, I keep him. And you talk about a guy, you talk about converting players to different positions. He could be your next right back. So I mean, I would keep, because I think he has a spot in the service to do for this club, and I think he could serve this club well.
Steve?
I'll agree with everything that Cristiano said, but I'd still sell him just because
But sell him for what, Steve? Somebody gonna give you 10 mil. You're happy with that? You sell him for 10 mil?
I sell him for 5.
I would sell him for 10. We paid 12, I believe, years ago. If we got 10, you have a spot opening up for a Hafa that I think is on the cusp. You have.
But Steve, if we want to be competitive in Campeonato Portugal, Taça Portugal, Taça for the Putos, Champions League, and represent ourselves with dignity, unlike we did this season, we need players. We can't just sell everybody and bring in all the young kids, and then we'll be in the same position we were this year.
I feel like we've kept a lot of guys. I think Salvi going to the World Cup will have some market, whether it's in Italy or Spain or whatever the place may be. I would sell, and it's not meant to be a dig at him, because I've taken lots of digs over the years. I think he had a very respectable season this year, given all the circumstances, but I would still sell him.
Dave?
Yeah, I like I had said earlier, to open up a spot for Rafa, we need to sell Salvio this year, and there's a market for him as well. I think we can get upwards, maybe even 15, if not.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that if he goes to the World Cup and he's at least part of the World Cup, he's got some market. I'm going with sell also. Willock, I know that he really wasn't part of the main team, but do you give him a chance at the first team, or do you send him out on loan?
What do you do on a form when you fill out a form? NA, non-applicable.
Non-applicable.
That non-applicable to me. That's
Steve?
NA.
Yeah, I haven't seen. I've seen highlights. I didn't watch the B team as much as
Cristiano likes him.
I like him too. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. I like him too. But
he's like a Rafa light.
It's
Rafa dark.
For me. For me, you have to. You can't cut your ties because he's too young. You don't know what might come of it, but you have to see a lot more. So.
Yeah, those guys are coming back for sure, man. It's not even a question.
He's coming back. Yeah. Whether he's not gonna be sold. Keep or loan is basically completely up to him and the preseason that he brings on.
No, not to him. It's well, you're right, Steve. I'm sorry. Up to him based on his performance. You're right, but it's up to the coaching staff. I thought that's what you were saying, Steve. I'm sorry.
Dave.
Again, if he's been with Benfica B already this past off season, why don't we loan him up to a first division club and see what he can do up here?
For me is give him a shot in the beginning of the first of the season. Cristiano Diogo Gonçalves.
Keep.
Steve?
Short answer is keep, but it really depends how much players are still around and whatnot, right?
Yeah, if Wolverhampton come in with 20 mil.
No, not even that. Not one over there. I mean, like depth in our squad where it looks like he's not going to play again as much as he probably should, then I'd be looking at loaning, because I'd like to think that there's a player there, and I think there's a player that's good enough for Benfica at the very least. So I would not get rid of him so quickly.
Dave?
Keep, considering we've sold half of our squad so far.
Have you been keeping track?
Yeah, I would keep him also. Cristiano Carrillo, does he come back?
He's coming back. He's definitely coming back. And that's just another option. I mean, there's so many options at the wing position. And right now, 2 days into the offseason, it's a little bit crazy of us to sit here and speculate. But at this point, if I was able to get anything for the guy, $10 million range, I would sell him. I would sell him because we have so many other options.
Steve?
So,
Dave?
I'd bring him back, but we don't know who our coach is going to be next year. But,
Yeah, well, of course we do. Come on.
there's
Dave,
a
what's
lot of
wrong with you?
speculation in this podcast.
yeah, but
Of course we know.
bring him back.
I'd say sell. I was gonna say Christian Arango, but I don't think any of us has seen much of him. He's played intermittently for Avsh. You know, if you can't break and be consistent on the starting 11 for Avsh, I don't know what.
You know who I would like to see back, but he's not coming back because Hanover is going to exercise his option. That's Jovic.
Yeah,
I'd like to see Jovic back. They're
He's
picking
done well,
up.
man.
He's done well for them. They're picking
Really?
it up. Benfica gave him a dirt cheap option, and they're picking it up.
He's completely off my radar. He's like Cristante, who also dirt cheap and looks like he's going to move on from one club to another.
Yeah. All right. So that wraps up this section. Let's move on to the next section, which is the season awards for best defensive player, best offensive player, revelation player, most improved player, and MVP.
E não temos o vidão de...
No,
that one too?
simple as you guys. So 5 categories, and I guess we could go in and reverse this time. I'll go first, and we'll finish off with Cristiano. Best defensive for me, Ruben Dias. I think that he's definitely been the one standout player in Benfica's defense has been Ruben Dias, especially because we really didn't expect a lot from him. We did expect him to provide some depth. I never thought that he would be able to be the undisputed starter that he is. Grimaldo, I guess, could have been a choice, but for me, Grimaldo has been kind of inconsistent this year. Dave?
Ruben Dias, and I have Andre Almeida as a close second just because of the amount of minutes he played this year and how reliable he was as well.
Great. Steve?
Ruben Dias, I think it's going to be unanimous at this point. I'm pretty sure Chris is just going to jump on that boat. I mean, nobody expected him. Well, he exceeded expectations, let's say.
For sure.
All right, just because I always do different than what people tell me.
You jerk face.
Feja, he was the best defensive player on the team.
Fair point.
Very Feja.
You know what? Because I don't have a spot for him, and yeah, absolutely.
Good shout. It's a great shout.
I love Ruben Dias. Look, I
dude.
I hate to admit this. I hate to admit this. And again, you guys know me. When I'm wrong, I eat crow. I did not think Ruben Dias was going to be anywhere close to what he's doing. And I am pleasantly giddy surprised at the play he's turned out to be.
You've done really well because I just messed up my selection now that I remember. But anyway, remember something.
You're pulling in Fredo Fumaças on Melhor da Semana on Benfica TV. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, Paul Souza.
Yeah. But Feja had a tremendous year. When the guy's on the field, he is. I mean, the guy is an absolute.
You nailed it. You absolutely nailed it. We all jumped on something.
We all jumped on the defensive line, and I think that you kind of got to look past that. And I think that Feza was um trator.
A gente fala isso quando vamos renegociar o contrato.
Yeah. Best offensive player for me is I'm going to say Zivkovic. And the reason why I'm saying that is because first of all, he was a guy that was discarded by the coach. He stepped in after Krovinovic's injury. In a position that he wasn't too familiar with, and he was a guy that he was able to drive Benfica forward and really put Benfica in almost we didn't miss a beat. Everybody was lamenting the fact that Krovinovic was going to be out for the season, but once Zivkovic stepped in, he was clearly, to me, the standout player in that midfield. Obviously, you can make the argument for Jonas, but I got Jonas in a different category. For me, it was Zivkovic. It could have been Krovinovic also, but I think that he didn't play enough games for me to put him or to give him this award. Dave?
So to your point, if Krovinovic didn't play enough games and Zivkovic took his spot, I don't think Zivkovic played enough games, and our best attacker has to be Jonas. As soon as he went down, you saw our record towards the end of the season, and hands down, it's got to be Jonas, our best attacker.
Fair enough. Dave? I'm sorry, Steve?
Sadly, I've made 2 players double up on certain things. But anyway, it's got to be Jonas, 34 goals and plus 34 goals plus everything else that he does, how well he makes the rest of the team play. It's Jonas all day. The only thing is I'm going to have to get him another place later on.
Yeah. Cristiano?
É fácil, pá. É o gajo que o Steve dizia que o Saviola era o melhor jogador que ele, que é o Jonas.
Toma lá,
Steve. He was at the stadium this week, so I had to shout him out, Steve. Jonas, I mean, the guy, yeah, he was there. Yeah. He was the pre-game interviewee, whatever. And he was there with his kid. I'm not sure if his wife was there, but he was definitely at Stade de Luz this week.
Yeah, he was. He was at Stade de Luz this week.
So I wanted to shout him out, Steve. It wasn't a dig at you. I took an opportunity to do both. Stab you and shout him out.
Yeah. Revelation player for me is Krovinovic, simply because of how Benfica kind of transfigured themselves with his insertion in the lineup. I thought that he was as a breath of fresh air. He was somebody that really pushed the team, and I think that perhaps his inclusion coincides with the best football that Benfica played during the season when Krovinovic was in there. So for me, he's the revelation player this year. Dave?
I have Krovinovic second, and before the podcast, I was going through my Ebola yearbook that I got in August, and Ruben Dias wasn't even on the list, so Ruben Dias has to be my best revelation player this year.
Yep. Steve?
That's where I doubled up twice. Ruben Dias for me is the revelation. I didn't expect him to be the commanding figure that he turned out to be for the team. Commands respect, leadership, very good defender. Yeah, he's a revelation. I was not expecting him to be as good as he ended up being.
Krovinovic is a revelation because he performed to a level we weren't sure he could perform at this level at Benfica, but we all knew he was a good player. We seen him play at Rio Ave, the kid. We knew that there was something there. It was a special player, just a matter of time before he actually put it together. Zivkovic, I think he's a revelation to a point where he was consistent. We've seen flashes of Zivkovic in years past, but never at this consistent level that we saw here in the second half of the season. I thought he was tremendous, but by far, I mean, I don't even think it's disputable here. Ruben Dias is the revelation of the Campeonato. Forget Benfica, of the whole Campeonato. He is by far the biggest surprise.
Bigger than Bruno Fernandes?
Biggest surprise. Yeah, absolutely.
Fernandes came with a little bit of a reputation, I think.
$10 million. This guy came from the B team. Nobody even expected this guy to start over Luizão and Jardel. And then here we are at the end of the season, and you could make the argument that he's on the Liga NOS starting 11 team of the year.
No, absolutely. Most improved for me has to be Andre Almeida. Most improved. He's never been a guy of peaks and valleys, but I think that he had a career season, and for me that's worthy of the most improved award. Dave?
I also have Andre Almeida as most improved, and Rafa Silva as a close second.
That's a good show. I also have Andre Almeida just because I felt that we missed Nelsinho, especially the way he could really create mismatches with his 1v1 ability, his pace, etc. But Andre Almeida, for the most part, didn't leave us wanting defensively. Contributed offensively more than we would have expected. Just some very interesting positions on the interior parts of the pitch that you were not expecting Almeida to come up with. 1 or 2 goals. I mean, yeah, Almeida is the guy for me for most improved.
Almeida is my honorable mention for all the reasons you guys mentioned. He had a spectacular season, consistent, played at a level
there's no such thing as honorable mention unless you're gonna have.
He's an honorable mention. I am.
Oh,
That's
okay.
what I'm saying. He's an honorable mention.
All right.
I gotta shout him out. Salute. But
most improved is
Rafa. At one point, I questioned whether this guy could even play at this level if he was a professional footballer. So the fact that he was one of our most dangerous players, if not the most dangerous players down the stretch here at the end of the season, he is leaps and bounds compared to what we anticipated he was coming into the season. And it gives us all great hope. And as we went back with the buy, sell, whatever, I said keep, because we all seen the heights that this guy could hit, and we think it could get better. So to me, he is the revelation because, again, I was questioning most improved. I was questioning whether this guy was even a professional player at one point.
Yeah. And now for the last one, which is MVP for me, is Jonas. I don't think I have to go into reasons for that. Dave?
Jonas, number 1. Andre Almeida, number 2, just for the amount of minutes he played in Phasia, number 3 for me.
This guy, if you're throwing on lists all the time.
He's got more choice. He's got more choices.
Yeah, the guy doesn't get to talk all the time. He's trying to get his minutes in too. Leave him alone.
Yeah, if I had a second choice, it's definitely Phasia. But if I only have one, it's got to be Jonas.
Yeah. You too. You have honorable mentions. What kind of crap is that, dude?
Because you have to, because you know,
you have to
credit where credit's due.
See, it's kind of like what Alfredo Fumasas does when he goes on podcasts. He wants to shout out a handful of people, and then other people feel slighted. So I don't want Andre Almeida to feel slighted. So I'm letting them know, André, estás a escutar para a ficha este ano, mas tu sabes como é que é. Corta o bigode. MVP. I mean, it's John. I was trying to think of something stupid to say, but I couldn't even. As stupid as I am, I couldn't come up with it. Jonas. I mean, the guy. He is not just best player in Benfica, the best player in Portugal. He's at another level. Another level.
All right. So that wraps it up for our season-ending awards.
E não, o melhor frangueiro?
Não, o melhor frangueiro. Está na outra equipa.
Come on, we have some disappointments this year.
I
know we've beaten up enough on our goalkeepers this season, as much as we have beaten up on Rui Vitória. So we're gonna leave that alone.
We don't do any beating up here on Benfica podcast. That's for the other club, all right? Let's stop with that.
That's 4.
That was the best one.
You got 4 jokes. That was a good one. The next one, you know that I wrote. Não, já tá. Não, mais para falar.
Overtime today.
Mais para falar. The next section is I asked you guys for highlights of the season. I guess I could go first too. Yeah, highlights and lowlights. So for me, the highlights of the season was definitely the emergence of Krovinovic. The featuring of Zivkovic for me was another highlight, and obviously our trip to Portugal to watch the derby was one of the highlights of the season for me. So those 3 highlights. Dave, I don't know if you have 3, if you have 1, if you have 2, if you have 5.
I managed to find 3 highlights this season. The first 3 months of 2018, where we went 12 wins, 2 draws, leading up to the Clásico. Jonas' goal output this year has also been a highlight. I think everybody knows his stats on that. And every time Benfica would score in the last 10 minutes of the game was a highlight of the season for me.
Yeah, we did that enough. It was really hard for me to find highlights this season. Super difficult. All of yours so far have been good. I would have to point, if we're looking for specific moments, one on the pitch, as much as it was not in the best circumstances, but still important. That blast of a free kick for Jonas to tie the game in Belém was a moment. It wasn't a great highlight because it was only a tie, but it was still up there. Going for a more personal and sentimental one, meeting Pedji at the Luge was, after what, 4 or 5 years of chatting online, was phenomenal. And that's the only 2 that I could really come up with. I mean, that kind of shows you the type of mindset I was in for the most of the season, where it was kind of doom and gloom.
Yeah. Highlights on the field. Jonas' performance this year, 34 goals, speaks for itself. Spectacular. The guy's like a fine wine, keeps getting better with age. A highlight only because of what transpired afterwards. The first derby at Estádio da Luz against Sporting Lisboa, where a lot of people anticipated Benfica were going to get slapped around, and Benfica showed up and they turned their season around. And that game was a pivotal point and springboarded them into having a good second half of the season and to at least finish in a position we did, which, as bad as things were, and I still want someone to be held accountable for, and I want major changes at the top. That being said, the fact we're still at least in the preliminaries and in the qualifiers for the Champions League, that's also a highlight. Off the field, the highlight, I had the privilege of going to Benfica Manchester United Champions League game. That was a tremendous feat. Met CJ Dos Santos. Yeah. Tremendous young lad.
Keaton Parks.
Keaton Parks. I didn't want to say that because then Steve's going to say that's why I want to keep him. But, you know, both guys, very humble, very nice kids. And I'm a fan, even if it's, whether it's, you know, unless sport thing, I'll be a fan. I'll be rooting for these guys no matter where they go. So that was definitely a highlight. And, you know, our trip, it's always a highlight every time.
Well, all of that was contained within our trip.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Now, lowlights. Yeah, and I'm sure that there's plenty of them. Champions League disappointment, obviously, the Penta failure, and Benfica's kickoffs. Those are the three lowlights for me.
What were they pass it to Pizzi and they make a 50-50 ball?
Yeah. Steve, have you seen that somebody actually made a compilation of all of those all throughout the season?
No.
It's on YouTube, dude.
You should check the Benfica podcast account once in a while, Steve.
You
are receiving their checks.
Well, you know, what are you gonna do? I could see it's small team mentality. I could see what he's trying to do. I can see
Explain it, because I don't understand it.
He figures if he wins the ball 50-50 up the pitch, he has the other team in a certain mindset and in a certain stature where they're going to look to play the ball. And if you win it there, you have less defenders in front of you. You have a team that's slightly disorganized, where if you try to play football and you try to create overloads and et cetera, type of football where
but it's always, but it's also
more predictable, right?
It's also a 50-50 chance you're turning the ball over.
Well, absolutely.
The team is still positioned in the field as they were when they first line up, dude.
I completely agree with all of the above.
I don't know why you're making arguments.
I'm trying to give you what I think he's thinking, not something that I actually agree with.
But that doesn't make any sense.
You agree with that? Put pé pra frente e corre.
No, I don't. I don't.
To me, there's nothing like starting a game in possession. Why are you going to give up the possession?
Completely agree. I'm just trying to say what I'm thinking he's doing by doing it.
Right. Dave, lowlights.
The 5-0 loss to Basel. Our performances in the Taça CTT and the Taça Portugal. Also the Tondela loss at home was also a low light, and then I also got 2 honorable mentions.
Low light honorable mentions.
Yeah.
5.
The whole Eusebio Cup fiasco, like we had mentioned earlier.
That's because you're from Hamilton.
He takes that very serious.
For sure. And all the off-field arrests that took place this season was a low point of the season.
Yeah. Steve?
Low point, absolute lowest of lows, I think is the Champions League campaign as a whole. You want to look at the Penta and losing the league. I mean, it's still a sport. We're not going to win every year. That we competed basically to the end. I can't hold that as my absolute lowest of lows. My lowest of lows is us looking like a bunch of fools in a group where I felt it looked at the very least to be very accessible. And we did not make it look that way.
So go back and play my highlights. And aside from that, everything else was a miserable and it's a low light. And it's definitely a year to forget. Okay. It's one of the years you want to forget. It's an historically bad year. Historically bad year. One of the worst years in the history of Benfica. So for that alone, forget it. Esquece, apaga. Delete the file.
We did win a Super Taça, Cristiano.
Não começa com isso. Não começa com isso. Uma Super Taça.
That
mais.
No, that's it. No,
that concludes.
Yeah, that concludes
the 2017 to 2018 season.
Yeah, I just wanted to look ahead to the preseason schedule for Benfica. Team reports to camp on June 28th. On the 10th of July, they will play Leeds United, and on the 13th, they will play Vitória Setúbal in Setúbal. The team will have their first camp in Troia. If you guys are
nice.
Are familiar with that? Troia is a little peninsula off the coast of Setúbal.
Yeah, you skipped. That's July 9th. You skipped like a whole 3 weeks.
What's July 9th?
June 28th started preseason work at Estádio da
You
Luz.
said that.
July 9th, beginning of
said,
estágio
dude.
in Troia. I thought you went to
The
July.
10th and the 13th.
Oh, of June.
June. Sorry, the 10th and the
You said July.
no July. Yeah.
I'm lost.
June
is
28 is the
coming
start. So it's July 9th, and July 9th is the start of camp in Troia. July 10th and July 13th, Leeds United and Vitória Setúbal, respectively. On the 15th and through the 20th of July, Benfica will travel to England to St. George's Park. They will spend 5 days there. This will be the third time that Benfica will spend some time in preseason there. On the 20th, they'll play Sevilla as part of the first game of the International Champions Cup. Then on the 22nd of July, they will fly to the U.S. On the 25th, they will play Dortmund in Pittsburgh. On the 28th, they'll play Juventus in Harrison. And then on the 7th or 8th of August, they will play their first leg of that Champions League qualification. Third eliminatoria, as they call it, but it's 2 qualification rounds that Benfica will have to go through before qualifying for the Champions League. And then on the 12th of August, the league starts. Official league start of for Benfica, the 12th of August. So that's pretty much the preseason schedule that's been announced so far by Benfica. Players going to the World Cup, as I mentioned, or as we have already touched up. Ruben Dias is part of the 35. There's no doubt in my mind that he will be part of the 23. Salvio is also part of a prelim squad. Jimenez, Seferovic, and possibly Zivkovic also, as we mentioned. And I think that's about it. Aaron Martin from Espanyol, left back. Seems that the owner of Espanyol was in Lisbon negotiating Aaron Martin. Word out of Argentina is that Benfica has reached an agreement with Cologne for German Conti, the center back, 23-year-old that we have mentioned earlier, to come. So that's as much as we know as far as transfer. Silly season will now take place. As for us,
are we not going to make mention of Renato Sanchez possibly coming back?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think that anytime that there's some doubts on Renato Sanchez, there's always that possibility of Renato coming back. Whether or not it'll be a fit, yeah. I mean, I'd love to get him revitalized and rebirth, if you will, at Benfica, because he knows the house. He's loved by the Massa Adepta. And I think that he'd be comfortable in Lisbon. Now, whether or not that's a reality, that's yet to be seen. I know that Bayern was charging Swansea quite a hefty sum to have him for just that half of the season. So I don't think he's going to come to Benfica for cheap. There's obviously going to be loan fees. So I don't know. I just don't know. Before we part, Cristiano, anything that you wanted to add before we say our goodbyes?
Ganhas Luiz e volta mais forte para o ano, and let's bring the cup back to where it belongs. Luis Felipe Vieira and whoever the hell else is listening. And if I had to say, I'm gonna sign off on this, I'd bring in a new coach.
Steve, some parting thoughts?
I'd have to agree with Cristiano. If it was up to me, the coaching position would be up for grabs. You'd definitely be looking at different guys. But I don't believe that's actually in the ideas of the presidents, and that's where I'll go with that. I think we're gonna have to make do with what we have and really give our head a shake and see that we're at a moment in our history where we are back at least on level terms, if not slightly higher than our other rivals. We got to make use of it.
Yeah. Dave?
I'd like to see some investment in the club this offseason. We've seen last offseason when we haven't made investments what that turns out to be. But there's that saying, together stronger.
Yeah.
So, together, see what happens next year.
Yeah. Cristiano, Steve, sell, loan, or keep?
you know, he's got pretty hair, so I'll give him another shot. I'll bring him back. Bring him back. There's on restrictions, you know.
I thought I was getting thrown to a Barcelona podcast.
He needs to shed a couple pounds.
What?
Get in shape.
Think read my.
Get fit.
Think read my.
Yeah. So from myself, I just wanted to thank everyone for supporting and listening to the podcast all season long.
Absolutely.
Dealing with some of our bull crap, especially with Cristiano.
Speak for yourself.
You know, all of the beatings, we all constructive criticism. So thank you very much for staying with us. Thank you for the people that left us, because obviously if you left us, you're not worthy of listening to the podcast. So thank you.
I'm actually nodding my head because I'm thinking about the people that left this meeting parting, went to
yeah,
heaven.
so did I.
Yeah, that
And
too.
then you take that shot. What a payaso.
Anyway, thanks a lot to I just also want to personally thank Dave,
Dave.
for coming in and doing the stats for us. And
Captain Morgan.
I know that we don't let him speak a lot, but he's definitely an integral part of the podcast, as we know, a very valuable asset to the podcast with his research and the stats that he throws up. So we've never been lost for stats since Dave has gotten here.
I love it. Oliveira's taking over the Benfica podcast.
That's right.
The more the merrier.
Thanks
you
for
very
letting
much.
me. Thanks for letting me on this. It's kept me in touch with Benfica more than ever, and thanks for having me on, guys.
No,
Appreciate it.
no problem. It's been our pleasure. And that's about it. Thank you again. Thank you to the people that we met in Portugal, Sergio and Nuno and all the rest of the guys. I mean, I mentioned those specifically because those guys were super cool with us and took us places and stuff. So thank you very much for everyone, and obviously Benfica TV for considering me for that show. I think that's about it.
Appreciate all your support. Come back next season. We'll be better, stronger, skinnier, hopefully, more hair.
Speak for
See
yourself.
If we work on that. And for a lot of you, bunch of you, I will check you guys out in Pittsburgh or in Harrison.
Either one or both.
Yep.
So keep in touch.
I got my tickets for Harrison. I can tell you that much.
There you go. So our Twitter will be alive from now until the beginning of the season, as always. So check this out and keep up with us by checking us out on Twitter. We will not be on any podcasts. At least I could speak for myself. I don't know. Cristiano is is a horse and he gets around. We will not be on any podcasts for the summer. And if I am, I'll make sure to let everyone know. So thanks a lot for checking us out, for all your support, for all your listeners,
for all
your listens. Thank you very much. We will be back on the Tuesday following the team reporting to camp. So I'm not quite sure what June 28th falls on, what day that falls on, but we will be back Tuesday after that June 28th. Be back with you, myself, Cristiano, perhaps Steve will also be back. Unsure right now. He's going to the World Cup, so he might not be back. Dave, hopefully you'll be back with us also.
Sure.
So thanks a lot, everyone. We didn't go to Twitter for questions, but I think we ran a little.
Almost 2 hours.
We ran a little long. Thanks a lot, guys, and have a wonderful summer. Don't believe everything you read. Believe when Benfica is being presented next to the European Champions Cup. That you should believe. Other than that, everything will just be speculation by the papers to sell you their papers. Thanks a lot. See you, everybody. Later. Enjoy your summer.
Peace.
Ciao.
Bye.